Hey Dan, it's Sunday, June 4th, and I am making this video for you from the San Francisco airport. Our flight's been delayed by about 2.5 hours. And you know, originally Beth and I knew this early in the day, but you know, honestly, we were just San Francisco'd out. Not San Francisco, we were just beat. We had a long last couple of days, which I'll tell you about in a different video, which I've got a lot of video for to intersperse in pictures. Especially our trip up to Haight-Ashbury was really interesting. Anyway,
may I have attention, please? The show is flight 286 for passenger Cruise Edwin.
But I wanted to talk about the swim today. So that was this morning. And unfortunately, I mean, I've got a few pictures which I'll include in the overall San Francisco video, but just, you know, nothing from the time we boarded the ferry to the time I got out of the water. So, so it all started with, you know, check-in at 6:30. 6:30 in the morning, and we were right in this this main cove, right at the waterfront, sort of on the northern part of the waterfront, because the waterfront curves around on the western on the eastern end and heads south. So it was at this area where there's a couple of break walls, and this is a really cool area where there's actually a swim club and a rowing club. The swim club does a lot of swimming in this area. Anyway, if you look at it, I'll show it to you on a map. Maybe in this video, we'll see. Anyway, so we checked in at 6:30, and then they had announcements at about 7:15, and unfortunately, the race director, I would say probably 80% of the announcements were about himself, literally, his knee surgery and, you know, just all these things. What I wanted was, you know, water temps and sight lines. What we got was a report on his knee surgery. So anyway, that lasted a while. Then we had to walk, I don't know, what would you say, Beth? Half a mile, 3/4 of a mile to get to where we all boarded the ferry. So there were probably 500 swimmers, and we were on 2 different ferries, and these are ferries that run between Sausalito, which is on the northern side of the bay, and Tiburon, which is also on the northern side of the bay, and San Francisco. So we all boarded these ferries, and the main door that you board is, you know, maybe, I don't know, 5 or 8 feet above the water line. So at that point, you know, now at this point it's like 8 o'clock. So, you know, there's a lot of standing around. And at this, you know, and I'm not, you know, of course I'm wearing only a Speedo, so I've got a pair of sweats on and an old sweatshirt. You know, I also have earplugs in, which I had when I went and got my hearing aids. I got these silicone earplugs custom made, which are really great for cold water swimming. So I had those in already, and so that already limits my ability, you know, my sensory deprivation. So I'm already, you know, sort of, I mean, I don't hear great to begin with, and now I'm hearing almost nothing. And so, you know, the ferry ride is maybe 15 minutes, and everybody's getting excited and getting ready and, you know, slapping each other on the back and, you know, that sort of thing. So we get in position, and people start disembarking, which means jumping out of the ferry and into the water. Like I said, about a 5 or 8 foot drop. Now, we did get that the water was about 59 degrees, which is pretty cold for a swim race. I think the coldest race I ever did was Bayfield up in Lake Superior, and that was 59 or so. So anyway, so they said this water was about 59 degrees, and maybe in some spots a little colder. So 59 is not so bad. So anyway, so I waited until about 3/4 of the people were out, and really all the skin swimmers were holding back because nobody really wanted to jump in, because once you were in, then you had to swim maybe 100 yards, maybe a little longer, to get to the start line, which honestly, as far as I could tell, was between two big buoys, but I never did see any buoys. What I saw was a whole line of paddle boarders, kayakers, all kind of holding this line of swimmers at bay. And so we all swam out, and that was, the water was not bad when I jumped in. I mean, it was definitely cold, but it was manageable. Fortunately, all the training we've done in LeCaine has really paid off in terms of being able to relax in this water. So I swim out, and I get into the front of this line, and this line of people, this line of swimmers was probably, I don't know, 100 yards long. I mean, it was a really wide line of swimmers. That thing is really annoying. So it was about 100 yard, maybe 150 yard wide line of swimmers. And so anyway, oh, would she shut up? So, like I said, about 150 yard wide line of swimmers, and it's maybe, I don't know, 10 swimmers deep. I mean, it kind of scattered, and it's not packed in tight. And so they start this countdown, and the swimmers start moving forward because there's really no discernible start line. And so by the time they got to 10, 9, I mean, everybody just took off, so I took off. At this point, the race got crazy because there was one trawler that was leading the way that had 3 huge orange buoys on it. And so that was we were sighting off of that, and they were kind of driving this parabola because the current. So we're swimming pretty much due south at this point, from Alcatraz back to the mainland, and the current the tide is just starting to ebb, so it's flowing from east to west, flowing out to sea. So we had to aim, our left in order to keep from getting pushed too far out. But at this point, it was a lot like, I mean, there were swimmers, and you saw my text. They were everywhere. I mean, they were behind you, they were in front of you, they were to your left, they were to your right. And there were several times that I got, because I was breathing to the left, that I would literally miss a breath just because the water was so choppy. And not only was it wavy, just because it was the ocean, but it was, huge amount of chop from all the people swimming and kicking. And they weren't, you had slow swimmers in the front and fast swimmers in the back. So you had people passing each other and people getting run over. I mean, there were several times, people, swam over my legs, and I was swimming over other people's legs. There were people to my left and people to my right. So there was really almost no way to get off course, simply because you couldn't move left or right without hitting somebody. And so it was really tough to find any clear water. Bayfield, for example, when you're swimming that, it takes maybe 200 or 300 yards before you finally get to the clear water, and then you really don't run into that many more people until the end of the swim. But in this one, I mean, during the entire 35 minutes, there were swimmers all around, and there was just almost nowhere to go. And a few times, like I said, I missed my, I would turn to breathe, and I would get a splash in the face or something would happen, and I would have to just literally skip that breath and keep swimming because there was no way I could slow down. Even sighting was difficult. You just had to pop your head up and keep swimming like hell, because if you stopped at all, you were going to get run over. And so there was actually, I felt a little bit of, just a little bit of panic. This is the first time I've ever really felt that, because I realized I can't stop even if I wanted to. I mean, it was just, it was strange. It was one of the strangest things. It was, imagine doing, and and you're compounding that issue with the fact that you can't hear anything, you can't see anything, because all you can do is just see churning water. I mean, you're looking down, of course, most of the time. You don't see anything. And occasionally you pop your head up and all you see is just flailing arms and legs. And even that, you can't look for very long before you have to, head back down, keep swimming again. So imagine doing a running of the bulls with tons of people running, but you're doing it in pitch dark with a strobe light. That's kind of what this was like. You only got a glimpse like every 2 or 3 seconds or 5 seconds whenever you took a sighting. Otherwise, you knew you just had to keep running because there were people behind you and people in front and left and right. And the bull essentially was drowning, right? So I can't imagine, even if there were sharks, them actually being able to get to anybody in the middle, and I felt like I was just dead in the middle the whole time. Now the water was interesting. The water was, like I said, the water was fine. Usually I gauge by whether my fourth and third fingers go numb if I can't control them, and that never happened. But there were a couple of spots, especially when we got near the break wall, where that water it had to be in the high 40s. It was really, really cold. And again, I'm just so thankful that I swam, that I've been doing the training I've been doing in Minnesota, because it really helped me just relax and to know that, I'm not going to die. I'm just going to be really cold, and that's fine. And so, also what I realized was, it was a beautiful day in San Francisco, absolutely gorgeous. And unfortunately, I never even had a chance to lift up my eyes and look at the Golden Gate Bridge, or to look at San Francisco, or look at the Bay Bridge, or just appreciate the absolute sheer beauty of nature that I was in, simply because I was too busy swimming like hell to keep from being run over. And so in that respect, I mean, I might as well have been swimming in the Mississippi River, you know what I mean? Because it was just another swim at that point. But that was I didn't know that about, the Alcatraz swim. Now I do. And I think if I had it to do all over again, I would probably go out at the start of the race and get out as far right as I could, even though we were supposed to stay left. Get out on the right flank of all the people and stay there. That at least would, to keep, because what happened is when that race started, everybody's trying to follow this boat, so everybody is bottlenecking. All that 150-yard wide line of people is all bottlenecking, trying to get to the same place. And like I said, there were slow swimmers, fast swimmers. I mean, at least if everybody was in line according to their speed, that would have been one thing. But they, it was just crazy. Yeah, so it was So it was I didn't know, I thought it was going to be like a 50-minute swim. It actually turned out to be less than 35 minutes for me. There were 11 people in my division, the 45 to 49. I was the oldest in my division at 49 years old. And there were two guys who beat me by one guy by 9 seconds and one guy by 56 seconds. So, honestly, 56 seconds is like if you swim an extra 80 yards, which is easy to do out there. God, that's annoying. So, I was able to get in. So, once we got around the break wall and into that cove, finally, I was kind of shut up, of the mass of people. And that was probably the only 200 yards that I wasn't crawling over people the entire race. And then once you get out, Beth had no way of even knowing when I was coming. I told her I was going to do like 4 or 5 butterfly strokes, but it was just too many people for her to even figure out where I was until I actually popped out of the water. And even then, you pop out, you go through the finish line, you're in the chute, and they just keep you moving. So it was just, it was like a crazy sprint race. It was just really, a very, like I said, a very odd experience. But I mean, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed swimming in the bay. I think if we come again, I'll do a lot more swimming that's not part of the race, just warm-up swims, which I didn't do any of this time. But so I ended up taking third. That's fine. I got a little medal, the generic, medal. But it was a fun and interesting race. So I think I'll end this video there. And if I think of more things to talk about, I'll talk about them in the other videos. So hope you're well. Hope everything's going well in Iceland. And yeah, go USA.